Mr. Primetime, long time no talk, man.
How you doing?
I mean, do we really? I mean, I got a lot to say about so many things, dude, that I think, I don't know. Let's start with this is the whole
Joe Flacco.
The whole goal of this show is to do a quarterly evaluation. The first 4 games are in the books, and we can evaluate, every facet of the team from general manager, coach, the team, the positions. So I think that I want to start with this. If you're Chris Johnson and you say, okay, let me look at my first 4 games of my season with my team. How do I assess what happened on and off the field? What would I grade my team? What do I have any concerns? Are there any red flags or any stuff like that? Your answer would be what, Primetime?
I mean, where are we not concerned at this point? If we're talking free agency, if we're talking the draft, we're talking the GM, the head coach, on the field, off the field, there are very few positives that you could try and even spin from these first 4 weeks. So,
I mean, you look at the team, they're 0-4. They're arguably one of the worst teams in football, on the field, off the field. The roster is barren. There's a litany of injuries. And you just try to figure out, okay, what does Chris Johnson see when he looks at this team? What does he see? Like I was thinking about today. You try to think he's a CEO. He's a CEO of the Jets. He's the owner of the Jets. He looks at his product as a whole. And how does he not see an alarming amount of red flags? And the biggest red flag occurred today when your quarterback, your prized possession, the only reason why you're playing the rest of this season because everything else is lost, is now out. And the reason why this guy is out, and I'm not buying what nobody else tells me, is he got hurt last week on the play, which should have been a penalty, which wasn't called a penalty. They take him out. They did whatever. I guess his adrenaline kicked in, which is such a nonsense answer today. They put him back on the field in 3rd and 5. Of course, a passing situation when you already have Joe Flacco. They play the rest of the game, which he obviously should be taken out, dude. And now he's out for an indefinite amount of time. He's on a week-to-week basis. So now you just jeopardize your quarterback. This is the management of the most prized possession of your team you mismanaged after you did the same thing with Mekhi Becton, which was criminal, after you did it with Le'Veon Bell, after you did it with CJ Mosley last year. Do you notice a pattern here?
Yes, I do.
So not only we worried about the play calling, the inept offense, his arrogance, the fact that he's not a leader of men, the fact that nobody's playing for him, that he's an arrogant, he's a prick, and everything else. Not only that, he's a liability in terms of managing his own players and getting them injured. Before, all the guys are hurt in training camp for the last 2 years.
Well, you touched on this last night. When you have a head coach that is coaching for his job, when he hears all the rumors, all the reports that he's on the hot seat, what do you think he's going to do? Do you think he's just going to let Becton sit out and have Connor McDermott out there at left tackle getting, his quarterback hit? No, he's going to try and push Becton to play because he knows that's his best chance to win, to preserve his own job.
What a joke.
It's beyond selfish, but this is who Adam Gase is. It's
Look
not
at the
something
damage
that we don't know
done,
already.
dude. Look at Becton was arguably your best player. He was a fiery guy, a physical prowess. You put him the fact that he played in emergency duty is ridiculous. He should have been active. And the problem they have is they're giving players a say. My adrenaline was running. I felt good. I really wanted to get in there. We don't care what you want to do. As head coach of the team, sit your ass on the bench. Sorry, dude, you're inactive today. Or Sam, you know what? We want you to come back in. I know you want to play, and we respect your competitive fire. Let's sit this one out because we still have 12 more games to play here. This isn't a playoff game. It's not the Super Bowl. It's not win or lose, win or die, nothing like that. It's one game. Live for another day. Manage it wisely. Understand the situation you're in. The thing with Becton's insane, dude. And now he's not practicing because he's got no strength in his shoulder. So you put him out there with no strength, and his game is all power. What are we doing? And furthermore, and I'm sorry, dude, this has been bothering me all day. I've been dying to do this. So if people heard this last night and they're hearing it again, I'm sorry. I really don't care. The fact that where does Joe Douglas sit in this? Because we're going to start saying that Adam Gase sits on the sideline and makes all these calls by himself and there's nobody's ear. He doesn't say, hey, does Joe Douglas call down and say, hey, man, Sam is hurt. What's going on? Because I guarantee the conversation happens, dude. Adam Gase isn't by himself here. So Joe Douglas at some point has got to get out of his little cave there, and Jet fans as a whole got to realize, you know what? This is bigger than just a coach now. This is an organizational problem.
No, and especially on the short week with Becton, you would think that there were some conversations that were going on between Douglas and Gase and the team doctors and whatever else. And so to actually risk arguably your best player on offense over a meaningless game. I mean, the season's going nowhere. We all know that. We're not trying to kid anybody. So what's more important, having a healthy Becton for 12 games or having him out there Thursday night to try and save Adam Gase's job? And then here we are again, Sam Darnold, same exact thing. He gets hurt. We saw his shoulder hanging off as he was running off the field. He comes back 5 minutes later, and you run him out there on third down to get his ass beat again. He is literally killing this organization. So
and the whole thing is, and the whole reason why you have Flacco is for situations like this. Sam gets dinged up. You know what? Let's evaluate him. Let's get him into the locker room. Let's go back and let's really fully assess what's going on. We have a veteran quarterback on the team, not Luke Falk, not the shit they had last year. You actually had this is why Joe Flacco is actually here. So there's no reason to rush Sam back. But they treat this game like it was like, oh, win or die. We got to win this game because we're going to do what? Get the first pick in the draft? Like, what's your problem here? So you look at this. So now you look at all the poor performance on the field, the complete lack of accountability all throughout the organization, because it's running rampant now at this point. There is no sense of leadership, credibility, respect, nothing. It's a complete dumpster fire. So you have all this. How does Chris Johnson look at this and say, you know what, after 4 games, not so bad? How does he even, what does he think, dude?
Because Chris Johnson's not a football guy. I mean, he has no football background, no experience in football. The only reason he's the owner of this team is because he's the brother of Woody Johnson, who's not here right now. That is literally the only reason. He knows nothing about football to be making any kind of football decisions, which is why we all wanted, Joe Douglas to be in charge of hiring a new coach, whether it was this offseason or, after the Week 4 game against Denver. He should be the one that oversees that. But now it's starting to get to that point, and we've been, going back and forth about this for a few weeks now. It's starting to get to that point where you can't just say, all right, Joe Douglas is here and Adam Gase is here. He's aligning himself with Adam Gase. He's going along with it. He's not putting his foot down for anything. He's not making himself stand out apart from Adam Gase. Nope. If he's all about culture, you can't align yourself with Adam Gase and say this shit's acceptable, because it's not. Everyone else can see it. Every fan, literally everybody on Twitter, fan, media, whoever, said the same thing about Becton. If he's not healthy enough to start, he shouldn't be dressed. Same thing about Darnold. Once he got hurt, why put him back out there?
Like, where's the common sense?
None.
Like, where is where is the overall pick, the big picture saying, you know what? We got to take a step back here because we can't jeopardize the health of these guys. We got to live for another day. The season is so young because you're still trying to figure out all these different things about the players. And now the thing with Sam is how much time is he going to miss? Because you still want to see him grow and develop and try to get things and just try to do anything. And now and then the funny thing is, this is what got me. And I'm sorry, the media saying, oh, another year, Sam's missing time. Now we're going to blame him for listen, at some point, just like with fighters, dude, you got to save players from yourself. You got to, with fighters, dude, MMA and boxing, they're getting the hell beat out of them. Their eyes are half closed. They got a concussion. They're bleeding. The ref says, hey, man, can you keep going? I'm in. Let's go. I'm in. Ready. And then sometimes the corner says, you know what? I'm throwing the towel in because this is not going to go on anymore. So sometimes the Jets got to do that. It's amazing, dude. And now the fact, and this is what got me. Some members of the media, and this is where Adam Gase starts his nonsense, where they're like, oh, 3rd year in a row, Sam Darnold's hurt. Kid can't stay healthy. This is the path we're going to take when the negligence was a part of the coach by putting him back in that situation. This is the path we're going to go down now?
And again, to go down that path also, when last year was, due to mono, I'm not going to put that on the kid. That's one of those freak things that happens. It wasn't like a football injury or anything like that put him out. And then the year before, I'm pretty sure it was Spencer Long when he was when he was snapping the football all over the place. So, I mean, it's some bad luck, yeah, but especially on the play on Thursday night. I mean, he got slammed into the turf. He came back in the game. But, obviously he was hurt bad enough that you should have known, hey, you don't risk this further, especially on a short week. Get him healthy for the long term, have him out there for 12 games. But no, Adam Gase is trying to coach to save his job. And it's not a matter of live for the next day. It's a matter of I might not be here for the next day, so I'm going to do whatever I can to try and win this game, regardless of what it does to the future.
It's a crime. If you're a Jets fan right now and listen, dude, I'm as much of a diehard as you are and everybody watching this and everybody giving us comments or anything else. We're all diehards, dude. I live for football Sundays. The Jets are 1-13, 10-5. I'm watching, dude. I can't wait. Look, I can't wait to watch football. This Sunday, Joe Flacco and Frank Gore, I could not be any less enthusiastic about this. I honestly can give two shits. I'm like, what are we doing? It's not fun. It's not enjoyable. And the worst part of it is, if they happen to win the game, you're winning with players that aren't even going to be here next year. There is no value coming. When you're 0-4, you're trying to find building blocks for next year. You're trying to say, okay, let's play young players. Let's try to find momentum. If you win a game with the young guys, that's awesome. They're learning something out of it. If you're winning games with Joe Flacco and Frank Gore, The only thing you're doing is screw up your draft position because there's no value out of it whatsoever. It's awful. It's horrendous. Like, dude, to be honest with you, if you're Jets fans right now, after the first quarter of this season, you know what you do? This is honestly, like, I was thinking about this. Like, everybody's, I was like, oh, you got to fly billboards. You should go planes. We should have some protests, which is stupid. You know what you do if you're a Jets fan, dude? Stop buying stuff. Stop buying Jets gear. Seriously, if we're fans, you know how you get back at the Jets because they're so incompetent and so useless? Don't buy anything. Furthermore, you know what you do? Don't support them on social media. Don't watch their shows. Don't watch their pregame show. Do not support the New York Jets anywhere. You want to support somebody? You have all these great fan podcasts out there. You want to watch the media streams? Do everything but support the Jets. Don't buy nothing. Don't watch nothing. Don't even follow them on social media, dude. Boycott them, dude, because it's the only way the message through because nothing else is getting through to them. Incompetence is okay. Failing is okay. Losing is okay. They're selling this bullshit week in and week out, and they think we're dumb. Like, oh, you know what? They're going to keep coming. They're going to keep buying these jerseys. You know what? Jet fans should start mailing back jerseys to the building. You know what? Here's your Jamal Adams jersey, guys. I want my money back. Just start mailing stuff back. You know what? We're done with your shit. Take your new jerseys. Take your lousy stadium. We're done.
The problem is, the big problem is that the Johnsons from day one have always treated this like a business. Nothing else.
Yep. But then we treat it like one too. Then you know what?
Exactly.
As fans, you know what? We're tired of overpaying for your uniforms. We're tired of paying $45 for your T-shirt, $40 for a hat. We're done. Seriously, if you're a fan, you don't buy nothing until Adam Gase is fired. Don't watch the pregame shows. Nothing.
In what other walk of life do you get this kind of customer service over a 10-year period and just keep going back to the same restaurant or department store whatsoever. Anywhere? Yeah, any other walk of life. If you get this kind of customer service from somebody that you invest your time and money into, within a year you say, "Fuck it, I'm not getting anything back on my investment." So. Right. As fans, I get it because it's deeply rooted in family tradition. None of us are just going to give it up. But yeah, as far as spending money, absolutely. I haven't bought any Jets gear all year, and I have no reason to. I bought 2 new uniforms a year ago. One of them is Jamal Adams, which I can't wear anymore. The other one's Sam Darnold, who we're already talking about getting rid of at the end of this year. So if that happens, it's going to be a while before I'm buying another one. So
yeah, I mean, listen, dude. Like if I'm like, you know what? Stop buying gear. They're right now taking advantage of us. They're saying, you know what? We're going to keep giving you this trash week in and week out because, we honestly don't care. And our fans are going to keep coming back for more and keep buying stuff and keep doing this and keep supporting us. Listen, you can watch a game on Sunday, but you know what? Don't support anything else they do on social media and don't buy anything. Start hurting your pockets because you're right. It is a business. That's exactly what it is. Social media outrage isn't doing anything. Endless stories, endless articles, endless podcasts. We're not making a difference because the ownership doesn't really care. So you know what? Dumb, cool. You want to play this game? As fans will play the same game too. Good luck when you have no ratings on any of your things, when you're getting 10 views on your videos, and nobody's buying a goddamn thing. They can have a clearance sale. They can make it all come down to $10 a shirt at that point. I don't care.
And that's another unfortunate part of everything that's going on this year is that the home games we can't make an impact because we touched on this last night. I do think that's something that ownership would respond to because they're in the building and they hate to be embarrassed in their home stadium, and especially if it was on prime time on Thursday night. If you were listening to even 20,000, 30,000, however many were in the building, if you're listening to that many boos in your home stadium and fire Gase chants and everything else, you're probably more likely to respond to that. So, they're catching a break by not having the home games this year. I think it's easier to, kind of tune out certain things on social media.
Hiding.
Exactly. That's what they're doing. So,
the Johnsons came out. He came out week 1 and embarrassed himself by doubling down on Adam Gase. He's been in hiding ever since. Joe Douglas is definitely hiding. Maybe he's gonna come out by the bye week or something like that. And what is he gonna do? I think he's smart to realize that if he doubles down Adam Gase, he's gonna look like a jackass because the end of the season he's probably have to fire the guy. But there's nobody.
But why does he have to come out and double down on Adam Gase? Why can't he make an assertive statement that what's gone on through the first quarter of the season is not acceptable? Why can't he?
Because the owner didn't do it.
But why can't
even the owner didn't do that?
Exactly. But why can't Joe Douglas, the GM who was brought here to establish a new culture, why can't he do that?
Dude, listen, you know how I feel, man. Like I would have been cutting players. I'd have been benching players. Like there's nothing like. When you're 0-4, there's nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed is because of injuries. They tried out Pierre Desir week in and week out, Alec Ogletree week in and week out. And then at some point, like as an organization, you say, why is Frank Gore starting and getting this many carries when your young running backs are back? Why are you signing Ty Johnson when Bilal Powell made 10 times more sense? Like, why are you making these decisions? What are we doing here? And and more and more, the more you think about it, Adam Gase has too much say here. And I will continue to say that until somebody proves me wrong. And then the other thing that the story came out today with Robbie Anderson. which that really puts a monkey wrench in everything because now it's showing you more and more what this team and how they work together. Because for the whole Robbie didn't want to be here crowd, well, that got blown out your ass because that's not true. He actually did want to be here, but the Jets were lowballing. Like we said, didn't we? We said this during the whole time. And there's two things fans said. Robbie wanted too much money. Robbie didn't want to be here. Well, Robbie did want to be here, but he wanted to pay like a receiver, not get lowball like the Jets try to do with everybody else. They lowballed Jordan Jenkins. They lowballed Brian Poole, and that worked for him. The receiver that was most important to Sam, they played the game with him, and Matt Rule came in and burnt him for it, and now he's having a great year. And now the Jets have receivers that can't get on the field because they're all hurt.
Seeing that comment today that Robbie was almost in tears that he wasn't able to come back to the Jets,
disgraceful.
How do you literally do that to your quarterback? The one weapon, the one young weapon, the one deep threat that we had on this team, and it wasn't.
Who was getting better every year, by the way.
Exactly, and it wasn't a ridiculous contract, and it was still in an Adam Gase system who wasn't able to do the things that Matt Rule's been doing with him in the first 4 games. How do you let this kid walk and think it's okay to replace him with Rashad Perriman, who has 5 games of success in his career? Otherwise, for 4.5 years, he was a bust. And the only other move you made was Denzel Mims, a 2nd-round pick, who needed some time to develop.
Basically, what Joe Douglas was trying to do, he was trying to get rid of that notion that the Jets are always going to get used in contract negotiations and be big spenders. But while he was trying to be a tough ass and playing hardball, it blew up in his face. Because now the receiver left. Now you have a bigger hole, because Perriman was a shot in the dark. You were hoping that you got lightning in a bottle that you can build off last year and say, you know what, maybe this is going to work. So they panicked and signed him because it happened like 1 and 2. Like Robbie went, they signed him. Like he was trying to offset it right away. So you knew it was like plan A, plan B, completely blew up in their face. So now Perriman's still hurt. Now you're scrambling because Mims has been hurt. This is a lost year for Mims because now he can't even get out of his cuts right now in just warm-ups. So that's a disaster. So Joe Douglas, too, it's like more and more you're starting to worry about, is Joe Douglas still going to first-year GM problems here? Is he still learning how to be a GM? Because he's making mistakes everywhere, especially personnel decisions, contract discussions aren't good. And then the whole thing with Gase, like the whole thing with getting Balaj, almost trading for him. Then you got him. You had to cut him because he's a liability. Gase has too much power and too much say. And this little friendship, this little thing here is not a good thing for the Jets, dude, at all. Not even close.
No, and we're seeing more and more. Douglas, the spotlight is finally starting to shine on him. He made a lot of risky moves this offseason, kept a lot of money in his pocket, didn't trade up in the draft when there were plenty of receivers there. Could have taken them at round 3, round 4, could have helped Sam more. All these things that we all said you need to do more to help your quarterback. Well, he didn't want to do it. So whether or not it was, we're going to look towards the future, 2021, 2022, whatever it is, you're screwing your young quarterback and you're not able to get a proper evaluation on the guys that are here right now.
Some of the comments, we have a new beginning with Flacco. Then he follows it up with, this is just the kind of comments we get. So I guess when you get a troll, I'm going to bring him out. I'm sick of the negativity. Dude, go somewhere else, man. We're 0-4, the worst team in football. Your young quarterback's hurting to bring in a backup, a veteran backup that's useless.
Give me something to be positive about, and I'll gladly talk about it.
So then the whole goal, like I said, the whole goal of this show is to look at the first 4 games as a quarter of the season and where we stand. From ownership, I can't even fathom what the hell they're thinking by looking at this team and saying, okay, we have all these problems. Do we want to fire somebody, make a statement, cut a player, like kind of, get the locker room kind of rattle a little bit? Like, listen.
Who makes that decision, though?
It should be Adam Gase. It should be Joe. Somebody. But dude, look at the defense. Greg Williams' defense is horrendous. They're not tackling. They're quitting. They're blowing assignments all over the place. They're a mess. Nobody's getting benched. Nobody's getting fired. Like, everything is fine.
In fairness, and I agree with you, but how do you fire anybody right now on the defensive side of the ball when you went through 16 games of this shit last year on offense and nobody lost their job?
That's the problem, though. This team accepts losing. They justify losing. Yeah. And it's like status quo, like, maybe next week. Oh, maybe we'll win next week. While they're losing week in and week out, embarrassing themselves. Well, they're not even competitive. Like, you watch other games, and we're not even in the same league. We're not in the NFL, dude. We're in the CFL. We're in, like, some other shit. We're not even nowhere near the NFL. So you look at ownership, I don't think see. You look at the coaching staff, evaluating at the 4 games, Fs all the way through. There is not one bright spot. You maybe want to say Brant Boyer. Maybe is that where we're going to go with that? Because the kickers, the punter, and the kicker.
Been all right. Yeah.
I mean, we're going to go there. So you go there. So you look at quarterback. Now, it's 4 games with Sam. What grade would you give him at the 4 games?
I mean, if we're just talking about strictly results, I mean, he's probably a C plus. You obviously know the way I feel about the way he's performed. I think it's been a lot of flashes, a lot of moments that make you scratch your head. I tend to focus on the questions as far as, why he's, regressing, not so much as, it being a lack of talent. I think there are plenty of reasons that we can point to, whether it's the receivers, the play calling, just not going up tempo, not having any motion in the offense. There are a litany of issues with this offense that I think are beyond Sam. But just speaking on results, yeah, he's been average at best this year, and I don't think he's had much help.
Yeah, I'm going to be the same thing. I'm like C-, like not – I expect a little bit more, and now I'm concerned because now he's hurt, and now it's like you don't even know how long he's going to be out, and then – the hope was that he stayed healthy. Then you get back Perriman, Mims, and Bell, and you can say, okay, listen, we can maybe expand this offense a little bit. That's not happening because A, he's hurt, and those guys are still hurt. So it's like you're going to drag this out. Like the last thing you want is we're going to get to like week 9, week 10, week 11, and we try to figure out what we have. That's a nightmare because how do you even assess? Like you can't assess anything. It's just
no. We thought we did that last year, and we got fooled by, or we didn't. But some people in the media got fooled. By,
we didn't think that, but
yes, exactly. Some people in the media got fooled by, you went 6-2, you beat some backup quarterbacks, you might have some pieces here. No, we're seeing now against real coaching, against real talent, when the games matter, it means nothing.
Yeah. So quarterback, I think we kind of agree, not the grade we want to give Sam. We hope for a much better going into the season, but it's been a bona fide disaster. Running backs. We had such high expectations for Le'Veon Bell in the best shape of his life. You thought Adam Gase got his ass out of his head or his head out of his ass and said, hey, you know what? We're going to use him right. We're going to be more explosive. We're going to run behind Becton, do all these things. None of that happened. And now our feature back is Frank Gore, which to his credit, for a 37-year-old guy that's got 4 million miles on his tires, he's been okay. But the running backs are a disappointment, dude. There's no way to say that there's no positive here.
No, even Frank Gore, like you said, he's been okay. But the problem is he should be getting max, 3 to 5 carries a game? Max. Even with Le'Veon Bell out, feature P. Ryan, have Josh Adams, whoever, there is no reason to be wasting carries on a 37-year-old Frank Gore who is not part of your future. So hopefully Le'Veon Bell, he's back this week. Hopefully you could start to feature him as your actual workhorse, your bell cow back. Because I would like to find out over these next few weeks whether or not he could be somebody that's a part of this team going forward. I know everyone's pretty much written him off as, you're either going to trade him at the deadline or you're going to cut him at the end of the year. But I'm still looking at it like we have plenty of cap space. We desperately need playmakers. We've only seen Le'Veon Bell in an Adam Gase system. When he's out of the Adam Gase system, he was a perennial Hall of Famer. So I'd like to see a little bit of what he could do as the feature back. Yes, it would still be in the Adam Gase system for the rest of this year, but I'd still really like to see what he could do as the workhorse in this Jets offense.
Yeah, going forward, look at the rest of the season. Like, I want to know what P. Ryan is. Like, I want to and if I was Joe Douglas, and I would be not looking at guys like Ty Johnson, but I'd keep bringing in as many young explosive backs as possible, like young guys, and keep letting them play. The goal is to find building blocks for this year. The last thing you want is just say if Bell's gone and Gore's gone and Josh Adams is gone, the only carryover to next year is going to be P. Ryan. Like, how is that a building process? That's not rebuilding anything. Right?
Yeah, at that point, you're probably drafting a running back, within the first, 2 or 3 rounds to add on to all the other issues that we need to address, which would be not ideal.
So now you look at, okay, running back has been a disappointment. Quarterback has been not what we expected. The wide receiver position has been an absolute just disaster. And we had diminished expectations coming into the season. We said, listen, we talked about it earlier. Perriman's kind of a flash in the pan. Denzel Mims, the rookie. Can't expect a lot out of him. Crowder's over-reliable. He's going to give you what you want. We had no idea what to expect out of Vincent Smith. He gets hurt. Braxton Berrios, Hogan came in. Jeff Smith. For 4 games, dude, how do you even evaluate this group? I think they're like a D, maybe a C minus because of Crowder. Everything else has been terrible. Jeff Smith showed something last week, so he's kind of like an incomplete. I have no idea if that's like just because the Broncos really suck or what he is. But what's your evaluation of the receivers?
I'm probably with you, right around a C minus, maybe even a D. Crowder would be the one thing that kind of saves that. I know he's only been out there for 2 games, but he's been solid in those games. I think it's 200-yard games that he had, against Buffalo and then on Thursday night against the Broncos. So yeah, he's looked phenomenal. Even Jeff Smith, he made some plays as well. Berrios had the back-to-back touchdown games. I think both of those guys, if you had a legitimate number 1, number 2 wideout, Crowder in the slot, those guys could flourish as your 4th and 5th wideouts. But the fact that
4th and 5th, not like 2nd and 3rd. Yeah.
Exactly. When you're asking them to be your primary options, or when Chris Hogan's your number 1 and they're number 2, number 3, that's an issue. They're not going to beat premium cornerbacks and talented defenses that way. So I think those guys could be potential pieces going forward, but not the guy.
Yeah. So you look, all right. Are any of these guys pieces to the puzzle? Crowder's a established guy, so he's like a consistent guy. The rest, we really have no idea. Like, we're going to see a lot more the rest of the season. Like, can Berrios emerge into anything? Like, a lot of these guys drop too many passes. They run bad routes, whatever else. Cager's out, which is a guy a lot of people had hoped for. But to me, the position's been a complete disappointment. Like, I expected so much more. But now, speaking of disappointments, arguably the biggest disappointment on the offense is a tight end group. The tight end group is they're horrible. Horrible. Like, Chris Herndon, our entire offseason, we praised him. Like, he is the X factor in this offense. He has all his skill sets to break open this offense, spread the field, open up the running game, be a red zone threat, all these things. He's been he's fumbling, dropping passes, running bad routes, and have no idea what he's doing out there. Ryan Griffin is a shell of himself. I mean, I don't know what, and we gave him a new contract too, lucky us. Yeah. And then Wesco's been invisible. The tight end position could be one of the worst on the offense, dude. It's that bad.
Yeah, at some point, I think you have to start giving Trayvon Wesco a little bit more of a look here, just because Griffin, he's been invisible. There was the one play that you touched on Thursday night where he barely got tackled or he barely got touched and he just dropped.
The wind knocked him over.
Potatoes, I know. So you have that, and again, Herndon's been a complete disappointment. We were both very high on him. I thought he was in for a breakout year because he was going to be one of the primary options for Darnold to go to. And yeah, he's been dropping passes, and he had the fumble week 1. He hasn't looked good, man. He hasn't taken that next step at all.
Yeah, so you look at that, and then you try to say, okay, the offense as a whole, and then you go to what was supposed to be the biggest improvement was the offensive line. Now, you say this, the offensive line is improved, but the reason why it's improved because they were so bad last year. Like, they were the most incompetent, put together line. They couldn't get their line calls together. They couldn't block. They weren't in sync. They're doing everything. They're a complete mess last year. So you went from the worst to not the worst, and that's pretty much it because Becton was the bright spot. Becton is a beast, just so promising with his size, everything he can do, how quickly he adapts to the blocking schemes, the speed rushers, which I thought would be a big problem for him. He's doing good against the speed rushers, which is great. Other than that, dude, like Connor McGovern, which everybody touted him as like the next best center since Nick Mangold, is not exactly that. Alex Lewis has been okay. Fant has been surprisingly better than I thought he would be. And then, Van Roten hasn't been that great either. So yeah, they went bargain basement shopping on these guys. They didn't spend big money, and they got exactly what they paid for. Put it that way.
Yeah, even touting the improvement. I mean, I think it was Manish who put out the article last night that had the rankings of the offensive line, and they're near the bottom, I think, 5 or 6 as far as hurries, sacks, and a few other categories. I think rushing yards and things like that. So that's not exactly remaking your offensive line, considering all the assets that went into it. You're talking first overall pick, 11th overall, so you should be expected to play pretty well. And, I'll give Becton credit. Looks like a phenomenal pick as long as we don't ruin him with his injury. I think he's going to be an anchor at that left tackle spot for a while, so that's phenomenal. Even George Fant, great signing there. We didn't like it at the time, but it looks like, somewhat of a bargain, less money.
Great. We made $9 million.
Yeah, I mean, it was a glorified 3-year contract. So if it didn't work out, you can escape it after the first year. But now you have him for years 2 and 3, making, $8-9 million, which is, reasonable money for a starting right tackle in this league. So I have no issue with what we have at tackle. But I agree with you. As far as the interior goes, I definitely expected more out of McGovern. Alex Lewis, he's making a little bit of money. I think like $6 million. You expect a little bit more out of him. And Van Roten, he's been a disaster so far.
Yeah, so you look at that. So you say, all right, is the line improved? What, do we have building blocks? Like, are they going to establish any building blocks for next year? Becton, yes. The rest, I can honestly say, I'm not sure. Like, I'm not really sure. And that's the problem, too, where it's like, and the other problem is, how much does the coaching go into this? Not Gase, because we already know about Gase. The same coach that didn't handle it well last year, Frank Pollock, was arguably the worst offensive line of football and kept his job, is now coaching this team. And there's many times where they're underperforming, where Damian Woody's on there being like, what is this blocking scheme? What are they doing? They look lost. They're getting manhandled at times. Is it, could it be part of the coaching, part of the players? Is it a joint effort here?
I think it's more so the coaching than the players because, as we touched on last night, a few callers even mentioned it, look at all the offensive linemen that we shipped out. I mean,
every goddamn one. Minus Brian Winters, everyone was playing very well.
Exactly. I know Assembly's a little bit hurt, but yeah, Brandon Shell, Beecham. I mean, these are all guys that were a part of this offensive line last year that couldn't block shit. All right, communication issues and guys getting beat constantly, and now they're thriving on winning teams. So was it an issue with the coaching or the talent? To me, that suggests it was coaching.
So now you look, we just assessed after 4 games the entire offense, which is painful because I'm almost depressed now. Now you look at it and be like, all right, a rebuilding team, we're 0-4. What are the bright spots
on offense?
Yep, Becton.
That was a bright spot until he got hurt. Like I said, I think Berrios could be a contributor, not really an impact player. Crowder, maybe, and that's about it.
Dude, look at that. So now you have 11 guys on offense, and we're begging to find answers here. Like, all right, Becton's good. Now he's hurt. So now you're going to risk whoever's playing quarterback with your left tackle being out. The receivers Crowder's unreliable. Like he was excellent last week. If anything, you got to pray that Jeff Smith keeps doing what he's doing. Vincent Smith is coming back from injury. Maybe Vincent Smith. Apparently, the Jets are very high on him. Cool. I mean, I don't really trust the front office or the coach, so I don't really know what they see. But
I don't trust any word that comes out of any mouth about any player evaluation. I mean, Manish put out the article, again, last night on Joe Douglas, where he listed like 10 different quotes from this offseason that Joe Douglas said. And yeah, exactly. Every single one of them, making Jamal Adams a Jet for life, loving the talent, having enough weapons here. Every single one of them, he looks
like Robbie Anderson one's the worst. That's the one that's going to bite him in the ass because Robbie Anderson's just going off, dude.
Yep.
He is.
Yep.
Almost 100-yard week every week. Yep. Looks explosive. A team guy. Everybody loves him. It's just,
that's even one I'll admit to a certain extent we had wrong because I didn't think he was a number one. I thought he was a solid number two. Right now, he's playing like a number one, and that's a damn shame. And that's even more of an indictment on the coaching.
Yeah, and the one thing it was like you saw that he got better every year. And the one thing I gave Gase credit for last year, which I didn't give him much, was he actually expanded Robbie Anderson's route tree and demanded more at him. Made him run different routes, made him do more. But we got mad at him because he didn't compete sometimes for the 50-50 balls and stuff like that. But he was on the rise. He had chemistry with Sam. At least he was trying to prove each year. So that was a selling point. But then, here we are with Perryman and all these other clowns. And it's so overall, I think you give my grade for the offense is like a D, dude, maybe a D minus. I mean, it's not fun to watch. There's more questions than answers. And now your quarterback's out. And now it's like, the Flacco era begins, which is just miserable. I mean, I'd rather see Morgan, to be honest with you. Like, let's see what this kid has. I give up at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, completely agree. No point in seeing Flacco, no point in seeing Gore. And if I had to give the entire offense a grade, I'm probably going F, to be honest with you. Because, we're not finding any answers right now. A lot of the draft picks, they're not playing. You don't have anything at wide receiver. You have Becton, maybe Berrios, Vincent Smith, Jeff Smith, whoever. But there's not enough to feel any kind of confidence at all. And the worst part is you're not getting answers, especially about Sam. You can debate all you want, make or break a year or not for Sam this year. We're still not getting answers, though. And that's a problem.
This is the worst case scenario now. This is the absolute worst case scenario for the Jets, for Sam Darnold, for everybody involved, for the fans. The last thing, dude, and this is a really bad take. I'm gonna get roasted for it, but I really don't care. The last thing you want to see is Joe Flacco winning games with this team. The last thing you want, because you know what? So if they go 4-12 and Flacco wins 2 of those games, those 2 games he wins, which are completely meaningless, could get you from being a top 3 pick to a 5 or 6 pick like that. And it's like, they're meaningless victories because you're winning with guys that aren't going to be here. Like if Sam is winning games and throwing the ball around and doing something, all right, listen, you know what? This is something we could build on. Not because of the coach, but Sam is getting quality experience with players that may be here next year. Great. If Flacco's throwing the ball into Gore and all, it's just there's no benefit out of it, dude. And save me the playoff bullshit. Like I'm getting messages all day long. Like you're a negative fan. What if we go on a run? Do what? Like go on a run where? The only thing we're going to go on a run, we're going to go to the park and go on a run. We ain't running nowhere else. We ain't running the playoffs. We ain't running for the division.
Going on a run in the Lakers
about here. Yeah, I mean, go on a run. What? It's insane.
But there's always going to be that portion of the fan base that no matter what the record is, they want to root for wins. And listen, to each their own. I used to be that way. I used to think that way. I was always anti-tank. But you know what? You reach a certain point where the
how can you watch this game and cheer for? I mean, listen, when the whistle blows, you want to see them play well, but to watch Joe Flacco play, dude, it's like what? Like
exactly,
it just sucks the life out of you.
Yes, you reach a certain point where the long term is more important than a meaningless short-term victory because you've seen enough of the meaningless short-term wins throughout the last decade, right? We've seen plenty of those towards the end of the year where we're celebrating. Exactly, we saw 6 of them last year. Every year we've had plenty of them that cost us draft picks. That cost us a chance at Nick Bosa the year before. At a certain point, you want to see legitimate progress that results in long-term success. So
this team is going backwards. And the thing is, now people are like, well, if they lose this next game, Adam Gase should be fired. No. The damage is done. Like the checklist for Chris Johnson, all the reasons why you should fire a head coach, he's checked every box 2 weeks ago. Like every box has been checked. Like they're all done now. Now the final piece of the puzzle is you got your quarterback hurt. You've done it. Like, you've accomplished all your goals, Gase. You should be fired. And there's no more if this. All the if then statements have been met. Like, he's won the prize. Like, Adam Gase he's filled his treasure chest up. He's done. He's won the prize. He should be fired. So there's not more this loss. Like, you've had embarrassing losses. You've lost to a quarterback in his first NFL start. They've done it all now. So save me one more loss means a difference. Bill O'Brien got fired, and that's with a playoff-bound team. With they're in the playoffs last year.
4 of his 6 years, they won the division. So if he can get fired, and he oversaw Deshaun Watson's development, all right, you can say whatever you want about how much he was involved with that. No, he was calling the plays. Deshaun Watson became a top quarterback, yet he was still fired. So if he can get fired while making the playoffs 4 out of 6 years, how is Adam Gase still employed?
We're gonna go to the defensive side of the ball, but I saw this comment just kind of flip by the screen here. At this point in the season, I wish reporters would ask who is in charge, Gase or Douglas, who's making the personnel decisions. I could not agree more with this comment than anything, because the media is starting to get on Gase a little bit. They're starting to ask more direct questions. They're starting to get some balls. And the reason why they're getting balls is we're demanding them to. We're calling the media out, and then they're being forced to do their job because the narrative that Adam Gase is giving them isn't working anymore. That's just a fact. So now they're being forced to ask more questions. But now I think it's another level. Like, you have to start asking, okay, who's responsible for this? Ask Gase and let him say, well, it's not me. It's Joe Douglas. Okay, cool. So when Joe Douglas meets the media, we're going to ask him. Who's responsible for trading for Balaj, or try to trade for Balaj, who failed his physical, and then signing him here? Like, who's responsible for that? Was that Joe Douglas said, you know what, this is a good fit for the team? Or is that Adam Gase saying, I need this guy, let's go sign him? Over Bilal Powell, who's a much better fit? Or who's saying, you know what, we don't need Mohamed Sanu, or we don't need this guy because I like, Dante Moncrief better? Who's making these decisions?
Yeah, and beyond just that, I'd also love to know, and I don't know if this was said today. I didn't hear all the quotes today, but what was the conversation as far as Becton goes? As far as who decided that he was going to dress but not start? Did Joe Douglas have any say in that? Was he consulted? Was that his decision? Was it Adam Gase? Where does that decision come from? And
what's the protocol when Sam Darnold gets hurt and goes to the tent? Are any decisions made as an organization, or is Adam Gase on a fly doing it himself? I'm all about the hands today, dude. My hands all over the place today. I'm all animated and shit. So we'll go to the comments in a couple minutes. Defensive side of the ball. Now, going into this season, we gave Greg Williams a ton of credit, and rightfully so, because the defense was phenomenal last year. A lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of, just a lot of flash plays, a lot of dominance against the run, a lot of positives, a lot of young players coming along too. Week 1 comes out, Marcus May shines, and then after that, it's been all downhill. And there's not a lot of bright spots. There's a lot of disappointment. And you start with the defensive line, which to me going into the season was the strength, because you had hopefully a big year from Quinnen Williams. You thought a bounce back year to Henry Anderson. You thought, McClendon, Fodakasi, Shepard played very well last year. You thought you get a lot more out of some of these younger guys, where it'd be, you're hoping Zuniga was going to come out and play. And dude, the defensive line is getting manhandled week in and week out. They're getting blown off the ball, where running backs are going right past them and past the linebackers 10 yards untouched.
Yeah, and, I remember a bunch of the shows that we were doing right before the season started. I was not sold at all on this defense.
No, you're right. You're right.
This was the one area where,
this one.
Yeah, I mean, we were having the conversations back and forth. What are we more concerned about, offense or defense? And a lot of people were more concerned about the offense. And I was looking at this defense saying, who's making the plays? We had Jamal Adams running all over the field last year. You got rid of him. Okay,
that's a big loss.
Yeah, that was huge. And everyone was just like, oh, he's just a safety. No, he's more than just a safety.
Yep.
He was
your best pass rusher.
He was your best player, your best pass rusher, top 10 defensive player in the league. And who did you replace him with? Bradley McDougald, Ashton Davis, who hasn't been on the field.
Nope.
Exactly. So you don't have Jamal Adams. CJ Mosley opts out. And you're getting back, Avery Williamson, who's clearly not 100%, not the Avery Williamson that he was prior to the injury. You don't have James Burgess. You have Neville Hewitt out there. And what's the other guy? Alec Ogletree. He shouldn't be here anymore. So, yeah, I mean, you look at the defensive line, and that was supposed to be the one area where Quinnen Williams steps up. Nathan Shepard, Fadukasi, those guys had good years last year. Maybe they'll keep building off that. We haven't seen anything. I mean, Quinnen Williams he's been okay. He's made a few, he's had, I think, 3 sacks, made a few plays, he's had a bunch of roughing the passer calls also. But I mean, just the lack of tackling, the lack of gap responsibility, whatever it is,
the line of scrimmage, dude, the trench work, just off the ball against the run. They can't stop the run. No. And they're getting blown off the ball.
Yep. And it's a lot of arm tackles, a lot of missed assignments. It's just, I have no idea that there's nothing on the defense to really be proud about.
And the thing is, where you give them the benefit of doubt, is a lot of these guys are returning. The defensive line, there's not like you added 4 new pieces like the offensive line. These are all guys that were here last year. So they should know the defense. Like they should be surprised, like, oh, what's the call? You know the call. You know the defense. In year 2, a lot of these guys should actually be better because they know what's going on.
Yeah,
and they're not.
I mean, the entire defense is pretty much the same, minus McDougald and Pierre Desir. Everyone else was pretty much here last year, and they have just gone completely backwards. And that's why I felt like, last year when we were looking at those games where the defense started slow and then, they made the adjustments, but, they were still down by 20 points. Did they really make the adjustments to shut out the other team, or did the other team just say, you know what, we're going to take the foot off the gas a little bit. Yep. We don't need to score 40 points today. Jets offense isn't putting up 20. We're good. I feel like that's how we got a little bit fooled last year, and it's not happening this year, especially when you're playing better talent, better coaches, better offensive systems. It's just not happening.
Yeah, and the loss of Adams is enormous. You can't discount it. People want to hate on him, and listen, the things he did in the offseason to get his way out of here are inexcusable. But the player on and off the field, the emotional leader, the impact, at the line of scrimmage as a pass rusher,
who's the leader on defense right now?
Nobody.
Yeah, you have no vocal leadership, nobody that's bringing any
There's
kind
no
of
passion,
intensity,
no pride, no
nothing.
fight. It's nothing.
Yeah.
So you look at the defensive line, complete disappointment. You look at the linebackers, an enormous disappointment. Starting and now, I'll qualify for saying I'm a Jordan Jenkins fan. I was willing to give him a 3-year deal, $6 million a year. Like I love Jordan Jenkins. I thought he's gonna every year he got better as a pass rusher. He's like a lunch pail guy. All these cliches in football, and not doing a lot. Then you have Neville Hewitt. I think is serviceable. He's a very good rotational inside linebacker. He runs around. He plays with a lot of passion and everything else. But he's not a starting linebacker for 16 games. You said it, Williamson. I mean, I like him, but this isn't what the guy we wanted to pay for. Then you look at Ogletree, should have been cut the first week he played. Owasu's been hurt. Luvu is Luvu. I mean, the front 7 is just been an enormous disappointment.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is you don't have that one premium pass rusher. Because I still think that Jordan Jenkins is a starting caliber outside linebacker in this league, but he needs somebody opposite him to be dominating. Mm-hmm. And that way he can make his presence felt. Even last year, he had Jamal Adams as the guy that was kind of taking up some of the pressure away from him. And we were hoping it would be Quinnen Williams this year. He's kind of been on and off. But yeah, Jenkins has been pretty much invisible. And there's really nobody else at linebacker that's done anything to stand out at this point. You were hoping it was going to be Zuniga. He hasn't been on the field. Neville Hewitt, I don't think he's been as effective as he was last year. Mm-hmm. And Williamson's been kind of a disappointment for the money he's making.
The problem you have is if your defensive line is not getting a hand in anybody and these blockers are coming in free, Neville Hewitt can't shake them off. And these guys are getting mauled. So when you're the second line of defense is getting just overridden at this point. You have Bryce Huff and John Franklin Myers are 2 guys that you're going to say, you know what? Going into the rest of the season, hopefully you see more out of them, especially Bryce Huff. I mean, if you can get little diamonds in the rough and you can get them along and 5 building blocks for next year, it's phenomenal. Hopefully Greg Williams lets these guys play and not stuck behind guys we know aren't going to be here next year. But other than that, I mean, disappointments all the way around.
I'm glad you mentioned both of them because we would probably get ripped for not mentioning them because those are 2 guys that have actually played pretty well. That they've had their moments where they've gotten a pass rush, and I think John Franklin Myers, his numbers against when teams are throwing the ball, he's actually getting the pass rush in there a little bit. So
yeah, I mean,
that's one of the bright spots you could take.
Basham showed some flashes too, where he makes a couple impact plays here and there, but there's nobody really consistent. Like 10, 12 plays a game. Like, all right, he's always in the backfield. He's always doing this. And Quinnen Williams with his penalties. It's just always he did the same thing last year. He'll make an explosive play and grab a face mask. It's just. Yep. So you go there where disappointments all the way around. Not really any legitimate building blocks where you say, you know what, this is a guy I want back next year. I mean. Quinnen Williams is obviously going to be back next year because you have no choice. But other than that, there's not a guy like, you know what, we have to have him, right? Maybe Jordan Jenkins at the right price, but there's not a guy you say, you know what, definitely building block. He's coming back.
Yeah, I think other than Quinnen Williams, when we get to the trade deadline, I think everybody would be up for grabs. If you can get a mid to late round pick for almost anybody on this defense, it's worth exploring, I think.
So now you go to corner position, which was a concern coming into the season, which was we have to address the corner position. So you draft Bryce Hall. He's hurt, can't play. You bring in Pierre Desir, who's been an unmitigated disaster. I don't care about his pick 6 last week. He's been horrendous. Bless Austin, kind of roller coaster ride. He plays very physical, but he struggles at times with certain types of coverage. Brian Poole, solid. Other than that, I mean, Nate Harrison's been cut. Arthur Millett's hurt. I mean, there's so many, the guys you wanted to see more out of, you're not really seeing it because either they're hurt or not. It's not.
Yeah, and even Quincy Wilson, he was starting, I think it was week 2, and then he got hurt also. So, I mean, anytime that you start to see a glimmer of hope with any of these guys, even Bless Austin, he's had a few moments, and then he gets beat on a couple plays. It's just been there's been no consistency. I think that's the biggest problem. You don't have a true number one corner, and you don't really have the safeties, I think, to really back you up at all.
And the weird thing is they'll bench Bless Austin for making a mistake, and they'll keep Pierre Desir in there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the veteran favoritism when Pierre Desir has been arguably their worst corner? Hopefully you'll see more of Lamar Jackson. You see more of Guidry. Like, I'd keep throwing all these young guys out there as much as possible. And, like, listen, keep them out there. Hopefully you could just find something. And then you go to safety position, which not too long ago was a strength of this team. Well, not too long ago, meaning last year. And now it's Ashton Davis, who was supposed to be boy wonder, could do all these great things, all this speed, all this stuff, hurt, not playing. McDougald, who I thought was be a very good box safety, can make plays down the line of scrimmage. Nowhere's near that. Maybe he just gave up from going from Seattle to New York. I have no idea. And then I think one of my biggest disappointment is Marcus May. I don't know what happened at the week 1, but he's always off the screen. Like, he's never around the ball anymore. Like, I don't know what they're doing with him, but it's not where he should be.
No, I agree. I wonder how much of that is Greg Williams and his system. I know last year, he was like, 20 yards off the line of scrimmage half the time. I don't really know. I don't know what the philosophy is on defense when you have your corners playing 10 yards off the line of scrimmage on almost every play. When you blitz, it doesn't get there. You can't get pressure, without a blitz. So I feel like a lot of these guys are just set up to fail at this point.
Tyson looks legit distraught. I'm not distraught, man. I'm good. I'm frustrated. I mean, listen, man, we're 0-4 right now, and your hopeful franchise quarterback is now hurt again. Your left tackle is hurt. Like, there's no way to get right?
Yeah,
like, how can you
I can tolerate being 0-4 and having Sam to look forward to, Le'Veon Bell coming back. Like, all right, we're gonna find some answers. All these draft picks that have been injured all year, they're coming back. We don't have anything to look forward to right now. Denzel Mims is still apparently a few weeks away. Who knows if Bell comes back this week, if he's going to be featured or not, or if we're still going to be featuring Frank Gore. Flacco's going to be in there. Who knows if Becton's going to be in there, when he's going to come back. There's just so many questions right now and so few answers that, you can't help but feel like we're at least 2 to 3 years away, if not more. And that makes you feel like shit.
So then you look at just giving a wrap of our grade on the defense. I mean, we just asked, like, if I ask you right now, how many building blocks after 4 weeks do you think we have on this team going for next year?
Quinnen Williams, I think, would be one. Beyond that, I mean, John Franklin Myers as a situational pass rusher, maybe. Marcus May, I think if you have a nice safety next to him, I still think he's a starting caliber safety in this league. I know he's had a few rough games, but again, I think he's working with nothing on that defense. But yeah, other than that, I don't really know what else you have. Jordan Jenkins, I still like the player. He just hasn't done much through the first 4. So yeah, you don't really have a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, we just went over the offense and defense. Basically, we're giving everybody D's and F's or C minuses, where there's not really positives. And you look at the state of the organization, where we are going the rest of the season and going for next year, just not a lot of answers, dude. Like, we have so many holes and so many question marks. I mean, we have like Band-Aids on things now, where you rip that Band-Aid off, you're like, damn, there's no depth here. We don't have a lot. And now you got to hope that all these guys, especially the rookies and the young players, get healthy quick. Like, you want to see Mims and Suniga and even if Bryce Hall or whoever get all these practice squad guys, get everybody in the field as fast as possible to see what we have. Because before you know it, when you get to week 13, week 14 is over, dude. Like, then you don't know what you have. And now it's like, all right, now we have to figure it out next year. It's another year behind the 8 ball we have. And it's just this rebuilding process, man, is just.
Next year is going to be the same thing.
Same thing as this year.
Yeah, we can't kid ourselves. It's going to be a new coach, new system. Pretty much 2 draft classes you're going to be incorporating because, again, we've had 7 of our 9 picks not play at all this year. Right. So, who knows when we're going to get them back. We're probably just going to see them for a few games. So next year is pretty much going to be their rookie year along with, the new class. So, yeah, it's going to be essentially a rebuild all over again in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, if you're fans, if right now I said, watching Flacco and Gore is a mess. You can't – it's just hard to even watch it. You just hope that Darnold gets back as fast as possible and you see something like a glimmer of hope because right now the Jets are unwatchable. Especially this Sunday. Unwatchable. We'll preview the game Friday night, 8 o'clock. We'll try to break down X's and O's. I'll probably be drunk because I'm not going to do this sober because why should we? And we'll just go from there. So we'll go through some of the questions and see what people have to say. Hey, Tyson, why are the Jets being secretive about the severity of Darnold's injury? They won't say what grade AC sprain it is.
Wonder why.
I can tell you that because they put him back in the game when they shouldn't have, and now they're embarrassed. Now they're trying to cover their ass. to the point where Sam said he felt fine, was playing on adrenaline or something like that.
And not just that, have they said anything specifically about Becton yet either?
He said that it's more about pain tolerance. He's got no strength in his shoulder.
Seems fishy.
Remember when Boomer said Robbie turned down $40 million from the Jets? Yeah, Boomer's been wrong a lot lately.
Yeah, I wonder why. Who's feeding him
Boomer. If you look at, and listen, I'm a big fan of the Boomer and Gio show. I think they're hysterical in the morning. They do a lot of fun things. When it comes to Jets talk, they're both way out of they're way out of their element. They honestly don't know what they're saying, and the only thing they do know what to say is when Gase and the Jets tell them what to say, because that's where they get their information from. So Boomer's been wrong about a lot of things, man. That's another one that he was. I
was waiting for somebody to bring that up, because other than Boomer mentioning, the Robbie Anderson $40 million, I didn't hear that from anywhere else. So, especially now as we're hearing all the stuff coming out that, he wanted to stay with the Jets, it makes it seem even more fishy. So,
yep. How has Douglas make any official statements in regards to the state of franchise yet? Come on, Joey, grow a pair and own up to your contributions. He's got to face the media sooner or later. Usually it's that bye week, I think, isn't it? With either State of the Union kind of deal.
But why wait for that, though? You're seeing what we're all seeing right now, which is an organization in complete dysfunction right now. Get out in front of it. I think as fans, we'll give some leeway if you just own it. Trying to make all these excuses and, say Adam Gase is brilliant. I know that was ownership, but you're still backing him at this point. You're not taking any accountability for your own decisions this offseason, whether it's free agency or the draft. Just come out and own it. Say you didn't do a good job. One of the other quotes from him: if you're not trying to win a Super Bowl every year, you shouldn't be in this business. That was a quote from Joe Douglas this offseason. That was in Manisha's article. If you're not trying to win a Super Bowl every year, you should not be in this business. Can he honestly say that this offseason he tried to win a Super Bowl? No. He'd be full of shit. So just come out and be honest and say that. And you know what? I think a lot of fans would give you a little bit of respect for that.
Well, that and the best culture in sports. Yeah. Your culture right now is losing and a lack of accountability. And that goes with him too. It's just a mess, man. How can you give the offense a D instead of an F? You know what, Balance? You're right, dude. They're getting an F. They should get an F.
I'll give him an F.
No, I should give him an F. I was in I'm kind of trying to be in a mellow mood because I'm tired of yelling every night because of this team. If you guys listened to our show last night, it got a little bit nuts. So I should give him an F. You're absolutely right. My bad. There's me right here. I'm going from one source of misery to the other. The Yankees to the Jets. What is wrong with me? Yeah, that
Yankees losing right now?
They're getting smoked.
Nice. I like it.
Oh, let's see. Let's see what we
got
here.
And error begin.
Joe Douglas has got Becton and Fant, but pretty much everything else, he's been awful. The only saving grace is if he plans to use the 2021 offseason to radically build this team. So basically, we're giving him the first year he came here was all McCagnon's draft, everything else. So he basically got a free pass the first year because he basically sat around and signed Ryan Khalil and watched everything. Now this year he's going to get a pass because it's basically his first year on the job, and now he's given next year. I'm not getting a pass for this year.
I'm not either. And if we're saying next year is the building year, well, to expect the results in the building year, I don't know if that's fair. So what are we giving him? 3 years? 4? How many years are we giving him until we actually start to, expect some results? And I felt like when you inherit a franchise quarterback, I know I said this a million times, you inherit a franchise quarterback on his rookie contract, that's where you go all in. That's where you try and build around him. You sign receivers. You prioritize the offense. I know he did somewhat with the offensive line, but not enough, and definitely not at wide receiver. And we're seeing the results of it now.
When you go through an offseason with two top primetime receivers get traded for, and you're not even in the conversation for either one of them, that shows you that you're either not awake, you're not aware, you're not making moves. Period.
Yep.
That's it. Right? When Hopkins and Diggs went, that you're not a part of those conversations when you could desperately use both of them.
And the only reason I didn't go crazy at the time was because I figured, all right, he's going to prioritize wide receiver in the draft. He has to. He's going to draft at least 2, if not 3, within the first 3 or 4 rounds. And all we came away with was Denzel Mims.
The benefit of the doubt has been wiped away to a lot of things. The only thing we give him credit for really is the Leonard Williams trade and the Jamal Adams, the compensation in the Jamal Adams trade. Yeah. Other than that, I don't agree with most of it. So, Flacco will go undefeated in each of his starts under the Adam Gase play offense. Yeah, if Adam Gase opens up his playbook this week and does all kinds of crazy stuff,
he is though.
Yeah, he's a spiteful prick like that.
Yep. He definitely and he recognizes this would be an opportunity to be able to say, "Oh, it was all Sam. I just needed a quarterback." So yeah, he'll take any chance he can get to throw somebody else under the bus. That's Adam Gase to a T.
Yeah. So let's see. Flacco can push the ball downfield. Look at this. Listen,
What,
Flacco, maybe Flacco from 10 years ago or 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, I don't see any of this, to be honest with you.
When did it become that Sam Darnold doesn't have arm strength all of a sudden? I keep seeing that like more and more now. I'm like, I've never thought that once about him, that he doesn't have the arm strength. I mean, we've seen him plenty of times at training camp. There's never once that I've looked at him and I said, you know what, this guy needs more arm strength. He's Chad Pennington or whoever. No, I feel like he's always been fine, whether it's velocity on his ball, his deep ball, his accuracy can use, some work. His decision-making could use work, but as far as his arm strength, I've never really felt like that's been an issue.
Yeah, arm talent's never really been an issue with Sam. Next comment. I actually don't see a single game on the schedule where we could actually win. Dolphins are going to beat us both times. I mean, I think the Jets, they'll find a way to win 2 games. I mean, there's always that one, like we've been talking about, there's always that one surprise game, like, oh shit, they're playing way above their heads. Or the other thing you got to keep in mind is the Jets are now a trap game for most teams. They're going to go to, when they play other teams, like, oh, we're playing the Jets, we should win by 20. And at some point you had that letdown game, that trap game, that's the Jets.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that the Dolphin games are unwinnable. I mean, if Fitzpatrick is still in there, he can have a Fitzpatrick kind of game.
Tua is going to come in and just light us up. Like, you could already see that. I mean, that's
that would make me feel a little bit better than losing to Fitzpatrick, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, I feel like at least, Miami is beatable. Not that we would beat them, especially with our roster right now. But if we do get, healthy by, mid-season, it wouldn't shock me at all if we win, 1 or 2 games down the stretch again.
It is really concerning that Douglas was going to trade for Balaj, who can't even block his left foot on 3rd down. I mean, Balaj was terrible. His blitz pickup was horrendous. He was horrendous. And
think about that process, though. Aside from the fact that you were trying to trade for somebody that was injured, you had a guy who knew the system, who wanted to play for your organization, that's been a career Jet, a model citizen while he's been here, and Bilal Powell. Why not bring him in? Yet you tried to trade for somebody that was injured, and it blew up in your face. Yes, you didn't have to complete the trade and give up any compensation, but even still, the fact that you would think about doing that with all the holes on this team right now, you would give up any compensation for this clown? Dude.
This is a good one right here, because I got a comment for this one. Joe Douglas should be blasted for drafting James Morgan instead of a receiver. That's an inexcusable decision. This 2021 offseason is going to determine Douglas's legacy in New York. Here's the problem with that. Now, let me tell you the problem with the Jets are going to have right now. You're going to fire, in theory, a smart organization should have fired him weeks ago, but you're going to fire Gase at the end of this year. So now you're hiring a new coach. If you fire Joe Douglas next year, if he doesn't pan out, we're going to be back in the same situation we were just in 2 years ago, where you have the coach in place, then you got to bring the new general manager, and then you're the donkey walking backwards.
Well, no, that can't happen. No. If you're firing Adam Gase, which we all agree should happen at the end of this year, should happen now, but if it happens at the end of the year, Joe Douglas and his people should be the ones that are responsible for doing the head coaching search and hiring.
And they're here for like 3 more years.
Exactly. And once that hire is made, those 2 should be joined at the hip for whether it's 2 years, 3 years, however long it is, until you determine that we have to start all over again. Those 2 should be joined. And if it doesn't work out, you hire the right people that can work together. And yeah, just not this, arranged marriage that we've been doing where, one guy reports to the owner and it's a mess.
Cardinals have been struggling. I can honestly see Joe Flacco leading us to a win this weekend, which really would be the worst case scenario. No doubt about that. Listen, you obviously want to go for, as fans, you want to see wins. You want to see good football. You want to see this. You want to see that with Sam Darnold. There's not many positives. With Joe Flacco winning a game, to me, there's not. I don't even want to watch, to be honest with you. I'd rather see Morgan play.
Yeah, me too. I still don't think we're going to beat the Cardinals just because I feel like that offense is too explosive, between Kyler Murray and I don't know who the hell is going to cover DeAndre Hopkins. They're going to put up at least 30 points, and I don't see Flacco doing that. I can see them making some plays on offense, but 30 points, no.
Gase never seems to answer questions so much as mumble and shrug his way through a minute of verbal goulash. That's true. He usually is like a smug, arrogant guy and usually gives like those smart-ass questions. But now he's getting put in spots where he can't explain his madness. Like, he can't explain his mindset. He's mumbling. He's embarrassing himself now because now he's like, he didn't have answers for the stupidity now.
No, he's run out of excuses at this point, and the media is kind of seeing that.
The media is still giving Gase softball questions and refusing to ask follow-up questions. Well, that's not necessarily true. They've been going at him the last couple games. They're going after him. I think they're going to be more pressure on. The more they lose, the more pressure is going to be on him because now the personnel decisions are being exposed. Samini was asking today about why Darnold went back in the game. They're asking about why Becton was in the game. They're starting to apply some pressure. The only thing they're worried about is if they apply too much pressure, Gase won't give them their leaks anymore in their stories. So,
but that shouldn't be.
Is that not the case?
No, we know that it is, but at this point, what is he leaking? I mean, what news is going to come out between now and the end of the year that, somebody's on the trade block? I mean, what is the beat trying to cover up at this point? I don't know.
I'm nervous about the free agent market and how reluctant those players will want to be play for owners like the Johnson brothers. Well, we used to make jokes about this, the Jets tax. You got to pay the Jets tax to get players to come here. Your biggest selling point next year is to have a remarkable head coach in place that can sell you on a vision and a program. That's going to be your selling point, because you're coming into a losing organization that has a media market that's just ready to just pounce on your every move, a fan base that has no patience whatsoever. So you got to be a powerful, strong, popular coach that can sell a vision. And then you got to pay out your ass to get the guy to come here.
And I just don't know who that coach is going to be. As far as, a guy that's proven, we've talked about Harbaugh and a few others, but I don't know if those guys are taking this job or if they're even coming to the NFL. And then, your next guys up are who? DeBall, Eric Bieniemy, guys that have not been head coaches before. So either way, you're still taking a chance on somebody that's probably not going to be proven. And, whether or not a free agent would want to come here, yes, money talks, but, to a certain degree, how much more are you willing to overpay than the next team? So far, Joe Douglas has not shown he's willing to do that. He's very...
And it's hurt us.
Exactly. It definitely hurt us with Robbie Anderson, not negotiating with Jamal Adams, at least early on. A lot of that has hurt us. So, yeah, I mean...
Even Penny pitching with the offensive lineman probably comes back and bite him in the ass a little bit too.
Yep.
So the inability to prioritize the pass rush every single year is mind-boggling. It's almost like the GM doesn't recognize what strengths the past few Super Bowl caliber teams have.
Well, I'm not going to waffle on this one. I said prior to the offseason even starting that I would have had no issue at all not doing anything at pass rush, not doing anything at cornerback if we just prioritized offensive line and wide receiver. If we had an offense that was rolling this year and, Sam was doing his thing, he was showing real progress, we had a true dynamic offense and the defense was still doing what it's doing right now, I'd be okay with that. At least one side of the ball looks good. You kind of know what you need to address in the offseason. You can prioritize the pass rusher in the cornerback situation. Right now, both sides of the ball are complete shit.
Yeah, it's a mess. Once Cam Clark is healthy, put him in Van Roten's place, see what he can do. No arguments here, man.
I like that. Yep.
How about the draft picks we got from Seattle? Do you think they're worth it? First of all, we don't know because this college football season is a complete disaster. It's a mess. You don't know what their season's going to look like, what kind of analysis you're going to have. Are they going to play a full season? I'm going to say probably not, because you're looking at picks that are probably going to be 25 to 32 from Seattle in each of the next 2 years. And so let's just say one of them hits, one of them doesn't. The one player that hits, is it going to be an all-pro like Jamal Adams? That's what you need. You need to be an all-pro, and you probably need to be somebody, on the offensive side of the ball, or at least at a premium position like everyone was talking about, because that's what we need, whether it's pass rusher, corner, offensive line or wide receiver. It's got to be one of those positions, and they have to be a legitimate, all-pro type stud. And how quickly are they going to get there? Is it year 2? Is it year 3? So how long are we waiting, before we can actually make the evaluation? Well, Jamal Adams is in his peak of his career.
Yep.
What coach do you guys think is dumb enough to actually come here? Well, listen, the bottom line is this. There's only a certain amount of NFL jobs available. So most guys want a chance to be a head coach of a football team. But that being said, you also want to be with the right owner, the right general manager. You want to be paid well. You want to have a franchise quarterback, and you want to have a chance to win. And, the Carolina Panthers took a big chance on Matt Rule. They paid him an enormous amount of money. Yep. And again, what was it, an 8-year contract or some crazy thing? It was 6 years. It was a long contract. I forget how long it was. Now, if you're coming to the New York Jets and you ran Adam Gase out of town after 2 years, you ran Todd Bowles out of town, and you're known to have a short leash with head coaches, the next coach that comes here that has any kind of worth, you're like, all right, you know what? You want me? I want to be whatever, say $6-7 million a year, and I want a 6-year deal. You don't give me that, I'm not coming. Like, they're going to want some stipulations. Like, listen, man, I'm not taking this little 3-year cheap deal you give everybody else. I want a 6-year deal. This is a true rebuild where I need 3 years to clean up all this bullshit.
Well, that was the only reason they got Joe Douglas. He wasn't going to come here until they finally gave him the 6 years at, I think it was over $2 million a year. So, yeah, once they finally decided they were going to give him that, then he said, okay, I'm going to come here. Before that, he didn't want this job. And I think that's probably what we're looking at heading into, the offseason head coaching search, where you're going to have to pay that Jets tax. You're going to have to give, a 5-6 year deal with a lot of guaranteed money, probably for somebody that's not even proven.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's a lot of the comments are the same thing. Like, who would come here? Who would come here? Listen, you got to make a sales pitch, and you got to show some kind of continuity, some kind of vision, some kind of blueprint of how you can win going forward. And then to sign players is the same thing. Like the coach is going to make a big difference, man. Yep. You need an absolute salesman that's going to have some kind of credibility, some kind of respect. Like, all right, you know what? Like everybody likes talking about Eric Bieniemy, a very respected guy. Will he want to come here? Who knows? But you need a prominent person, man. It can't be you can't pull a Joe Judge out of your ass like the Giants did. You can't do that.
And, I hate to even say this because I hate talking about this, but Trevor Lawrence could actually be a selling point for a new head coach. If you are sitting there number 1 overall and he is willing to come to the Jets and, the head coach and GM both agree that he should be the guy.
Having a number 1 pick, dude, just having a number 1 pick could be a selling point.
Yep.
Say, listen, coach, you come here with you got the number 1 pick and we have $70 million in cap space and we got a bunch of draft picks. That right there. And then we have a vision where a front office that you supposedly has their shit together. I mean, we're trying, man. Like I'm really down on this team right now. I'm trying to be positive, but it's just not very easy.
Not easy.
Let's see. Sell the team now. Had they talked about Jeff Smith yet? Actually, we have. We gave him some credit, and we want to see what he can do. He actually looked better than Perriman, to be honest with you. He looked fast. He ran good routes. He had yards after the catch. Get him as many chances and play as much as possible. Give him as many reps as possible, dude. Like, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Him and Berrios both, I'd like to see them on the field a little bit more. And, I still think the true evaluation with them is going to come eventually if we ever get, some real wide receivers in here, because that's where I think both of those guys would really excel as, your number 3, number 4, number 5 wideouts, not, expecting to be the guy.
Yep. How many fresh starts can we have before we start giving up? Well, you know what? Listen, one thing you should give up and give up immediately is buying gear this year. Stop buying Jets stuff. And stop watching their shows. Stop supporting them on social media. That's how you hurt them. We can't there's no other way to get back at them. They're taking advantage of us now at this point. So we can watch the games on Sunday. That doesn't cost us anything. Don't support their cause. That's it. But if you look at it, with an open mind, which is very difficult, you're saying next year, listen, new coach, a shitload of draft picks, a ton of cap space. There's an opportunity to get a lot of good players, and then we're going to start the rebuild again. But hopefully this front office knows what the hell they're doing, and we're not going to have all these first-round busts. We're not going to have all these, just they can navigate the draft better, they can get better compensation, and then Joe Douglas can actually dole out some money and get some value in free agency. You can't have these Tremaine Johnson contracts. You can't have these wasted contracts. You got to get some return on your investment now.
No, I agree. I agree that Joe Douglas should have a chance to, kind of build this thing up in his image the way he wants to, building through the draft. I just didn't see the need to have a fresh start entering this year. Almost every contributor on this team from last year that was, a solid contributor that we thought may be part of the future, Robbie Anderson, Jamal Adams, like these were all young guys that were entering their prime. And yet we got rid of them and we made the team even worse. So is the plan to bottom out before we get that fresh start? I mean, I don't know if that's the best way to go about it, but now we're here and I don't think there's really a choice at this point other than to completely tear it down. I don't think anybody on this defense other than Quinnen Williams really is going to be here. And the offense still needs a complete overhaul. Minus, a few pieces like Becton and, maybe Herndon picks it up over the last 12 games. Who the hell knows? I don't know.
My heart is in pain for Sam Darnold. Like every time I see him, I just shed a tear. I love the kid so much, and I wish he was in a better situation. Yep, if you see that picture, the picture of him today holding the football on the side of the field, like you sit there and you're like, you know what? The New York Jets as an organization completely failed this kid. Yep. Like they failed him, dude. Like there's no way to sugarcoat it. There's no way to say, no, they failed him. Like legitimately, just monumentally after 3 years, you look at him and you feel bad. Like, you know what, damn, you deserve better. Like, and there's a part of me is like, like I said it earlier in the season, I think. I'm like, you know what, if you're Sam Darnold, you'd be like, you know what, I'm not even give you a chance to figure out what you want to do with me. I want to be traded. Like, I want out of this circus. Like, you know what, the New York Jets, the only thing you've proven to me is that you're incompetent from ownership down. You don't know what the hell you're doing. And I don't want to be around for the next 2 years while you try to figure it out. Like, I want out.
And that's why I did the video like 2 or 3 days ago where I finally addressed the question, is Sam Darnold's best chance to resurrect his career and, meet his true potential in a different organization? And I'm starting to feel like that's probably the case because I don't know when or if the Jets are ever going to get it right around him, especially with what they did this entire offseason. We all knew how much talent he needed around him, considering what we saw last year with the offensive line, the lack of weapons, even having Robbie Anderson wasn't enough. And yet every single thing that we did just set him back, set the team back. And now everyone's throwing him under the bus. And again, like going back to some of the media articles where it was make or break year for Sam, make or break year for Sam. And that was under the assumption that we were going to have a fully healthy roster. And yet half these guys are injured, and we've already, pretty much made it a given that Sam's going to be gone, that, his career is beyond salvageable at this point. And it just sucks. I legit feel bad for him.
Yeah, that picture today, I felt terrible. I'm like, man, like, look at this kid. He's probably like, what in the fuck am I doing in New York? Like this, like the Jets, like the weird thing is, like, we were together when they drafted him. Like I was actually sitting next to you when they drafted him.
I know.
And you're like, all right, Nick, we got the quarterback. We finally got our quarterback. Let's build around him the right way, and we can flourish. Finally, the Jets got it right. And ever since then, it's gone backwards. It's remarkable.
Every single turn, they've made the wrong decision. It's crazy.
So next comment is based on building blocks. Positions are left tackle, punter, and kicker. That's it. I mean,
I don't know if Sam Fickett's a building block, but
Becton, maybe Quentin Williams. I mean, hopefully Sam. But when you look at that 22 positions, dude, and we don't really have a lot of answers like who's a legitimate building block for next year. I mean, what a time to be a Jets fan, man.
I don't remember ever a time this low.
This is bad, man. I like Gore. He's a class act, but if I see him run the ball one more time, I'm throwing the TV out the window. Listen, right? Running the ball, I understand. If we throw him a wheel route one more time or try to act like he's Le'Veon Bell or Frank Gore from 15 years ago, I mean, I just can't do it. Like, I'm done. I'm so done, dude. Like, I'm just like it's exhausting.
What's so funny is that when we signed Gore, you predicted this, and I said, no. He's a veteran. He's not going to see the ball more than 3 or 4, 5 times a game. He's just here as another mentor like Le'Veon Bell. And no, he's become the primary back. I know Bell's been hurt, but I'm not thinking things are going to change when Bell comes back, whether it's this week, next week, whenever. I still think Gore's going to be out there for at least 8 to 10 touches a game, and that's still too many.
Yep. Adam Gase is so stubborn that he'll only use players he thinks fit his stupid system, like Balaj and Gore. He won't use actual talented players like Bell. What a joke. That is probably the biggest criticism of Gase, is that he will never adjust or adapt his players to his offense or his offense to players. It's always just, this is my way or the highway, and he'll just be arrogant about it. Like his arrogance of play calling is probably one of his biggest downfalls.
I mean, think about it. He traded Jarvis Landry. Devontae Parker's career took off when he left. Gesicki's career took off when he left. Got rid of Kenyon Drake. I mean, how many other guys need to leave him? Ryan Tannehill. How many other guys need to leave him and go on to great things? And yet, he leaves an organization in complete ruins when he leaves. It's ridiculous.
This is a great question. Honest expectations for the rest of the year. Pain. Suffering.
Drinking.
Drinking. I mean, what? I mean, 2 wins, 3 wins, maybe 3 wins, 2 wins?
That's probably where I think we're probably going to be. I mean, it still wouldn't shock me if somehow, just to ruin, the number 1 overall pick or whatever, we find a way to squeak out a win or 2 wins in December, that put us to 3 or 4. And then, now we're picking 3rd, 4th, whatever.
Here we got one for you, man. Let's go Mets prime time.
Stevie Cohen era. Let's get it.
It's criminal how Douglas doesn't understand the importance of continuity. Look at all the good teams. They don't have players being recycled every single year. What a joke. Well, when you give out 1-year contracts, I mean, what do you expect to happen?
I guess just to give, one little bit of praise to Douglas, the guys that he picked up on waivers last year, with Berrios, Franklin Myers, they've actually, had a solid start to this year. I just don't understand for the life of me this year how, we looked at waiver claims and we just said, no, we're good.
We're good.
I remember the show we did right after all the waiver claims were announced. I'm like, what the fuck? How do we didn't claim one guy? Nobody? The roster's set with all the injuries we had. We're good to go.
Dante Moncrief, baby, who's hurt.
Oh, he's back now, right?
Lucky us.
Oh my God.
Let's see who else we got here. Tyson, I think you may be my biological father. Awesome. We have a revelation tonight. That's great. I miss you, Dad, he says. Let's see. It's losing by winning at this point, especially this Sunday, man. There is no positives out of a win this Sunday. This is the first game in a long time. I have no emotion going into it. Like, we'll do a show afterwards.
With Flacco in there, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
Let's see. We got here. Missed the end of 2018, Sam. It looked like in those last few games he had progressed over the year. Since then, he's been stagnant to down. I hated Bates' play calling, but maybe he was okay for Sam. He played better under Bowles than he did for Gase. That's just a fact.
those last 4 games, and I know I bring this up all the time, but and it sucks that we have to go back that far and that we have a full year and another 4 games where we really can't point to a whole lot. But those last 4 games, he looked phenomenal. He looked like a legitimate top 5, top 10 quarterback.
He was in shootouts.
He went toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers. I think it was 350 yards, 3 touchdowns that game. Completion percentage was up near, I think, 70%. He looked phenomenal. And look at what he was working with. What, Jermaine Kearse, a rookie Chris Herndon, still Robbie Anderson. He didn't have a whole lot, and he looked phenomenal. Yet we haven't given him anything. We haven't given him a head coach, haven't given him any receivers. So why is it a surprise that he's regressed?
Next comment. I don't understand why we're playing Flacco over Morgan. If we were in playoff hunt, all it makes sense. But this team right now, they should see what they got. Seems like desperation play to save his job.
I agree with that.
I would agree with it too. I mean, it's
unfortunately, you can't send that message that we're in evaluation mode when you're only 4 games into the season.
Yeah,
that's. I agree that we should be in evaluation mode, looking at young players. But technically, while you're still alive, we know what Adam Gase is. He's going to be fighting for his job, trying to get this team to the playoffs. As unrealistic as that is, that's his job as head coach to try and at least make the perception that we're in the hunt.
I've been a Jets fan since 2012. All I know is pain. Dude, welcome, Nicholas. Welcome to the life of a Jets fan. We've been fans much longer than that, and it hasn't been much prettier other than a little Rex Ryan run. But
I really miss like the 2000s up until the Rex years, where it was like every year, at least we felt like we had a shot. If Pennington stays healthy, we always had a solid offensive line. We always had some playmakers with Coles and Santana Moss and Corbett. Like, we just don't have anything right now. There's nothing to point to where it's like, that's our glimmer of hope.
Anyone else nervous about Bill O'Brien coming to New York? No.
Yep.
No way. There is no way in living hell, dude.
Why not?
There would be. I mean, because you just got done hiring a failed coach. You hired a failed coach from Miami. You learn your lesson. You don't hire another failed coach. Who's basically run out of town by J.J. Watt.
You don't think Bill O'Brien can get in Chris Johnson's ear and say, "Oh, I built up Deshaun Watson. I won 4 of 6 division championships," and Chris Johnson will say the same bullshit. He's a brilliant offensive mind. He's taking football to where it's going, and he'll sell us on this hire too.
Listen, man,
that would not shock me at all.
Especially
with the candidates that are out there right now, who's willing to come to the Jets?
If Bill O'Brien is the answer, what in the hell is the question, dude?
I don't want him, but it wouldn't shock me if he becomes the next coach. It would not shock me at all. That would be a same old Jets type of hire.
Douglas shouldn't get any credit for the Adams trade. He basically traded him for a couple of late first rounders. I mean, I'll give him credit because we were all worried that he was going to get like a 3rd rounder. Like the compensation, I thought he got much more. With all things considered, that Jamal talked his way out of town. He was a complete distraction. It was after the draft. Think
about why he had to talk his way out of town. He didn't do that at the start of the offseason. He wanted a contract, and he was willing to stay here. The first few months, you didn't hear from him. He was upset, but it wasn't the level that he took it to, where he was trashing ownership and legitimately forcing his way out. He was giving you a chance to negotiate with him, and you chose not to do it.
Yep.
You chose not to do it before the draft, when you could have made trades to maybe get yourself, CeeDee Lamb if you traded him to the Cowboys or somebody like that. If you made a trade prior to the draft, you get assets to help Sam. Instead, you traded him after. I like the compensation, 2 first-round picks, but because it's Seattle, it's going to be 2 late first-rounders, and who knows what that's going to be.
Yep. Who in the hell really thinks the Jets are going to grab a great coach? These guys are just talking about that. You're delusional if we think so. I mean, the problem you have right now is that a great coach, which I'm not sure if a great coach is even becoming available. Just say Jim Harbaugh in theory. If you think Jim Harbaugh is a great NFL coach, he's going to want a shit ton of money and a shit ton of power, period. Because he's going to want, listen, the whole Parcells thing. If I'm going to go shopping, I want to buy the groceries. They're going to want control and power. And the Jets in recent memory have not been willing to give that to a coach.
Well, maybe they should. And that's where, the article that came out from Tony Pauline maybe has some merit if they are a little bit skeptical on Joe Douglas. They really wanted George Patton to begin with. Maybe they would be open to hiring a head coach that would want full autonomy over personnel decisions. I don't know.
I think it is kind of hard because what even is Joe Douglas's vision for the team? What do the Jets sell as their long-term vision to a good coach that will make it see it the same and trust Douglas? The only thing you're selling is draft picks and cap space. That's it. What else are you selling? You can't sell a winning organization. There's questions about ownership. If anything, the questions about ownership are going to make the next head coach ask for more money and a longer contract.
And what really bothers me is that prior to the Adam Gase hire, this was actually a destination that a lot of head coaches wanted to come to. Matt McCarthy
Rule.
wanted it. Matt Rule, Mike McCarthy,
Cliff
Kingsbury. This was considered the Jets and the Browns job.
Chris Richard.
I'm pretty sure there was 8 openings in that offseason. The Jets and the Browns were talked about as the 2 top destinations. Yet this is where we're at now, where we have to hope that somebody would want to come here. That's how much damage that Adam Gase has done through 20 games. I mean, just think about that.
Yep. I mean, we're already having this conversation. In your opinion, how do you guys restart this team and organization, obviously after firing Gase?
Depends where we're at the end of this year. If we are picking first overall, I mean, I've made my opinion known. Unless Sam completely regresses, I think the best way to really restart things is to build a legitimate foundation. And the best way to do that is by trading that first overall pick if you have it, giving yourself 6 or 7 first rounders over the next 2 years, which gives you plenty of ammo to address wide receiver, more offensive linemen, maybe even a pass rusher and a corner. And that should be the foundation that you move forward with. And if you find out that Sam's still not the guy, you can, trade future picks and bring in the guy into a system that's ready to go with playmakers around him. So that's how I'd restart it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it depends on what pick we have. Number 1 pick gets very interesting, but you've got to prioritize certain positions and address them once and for all. Like, you can't say, you know what, wide receiver, 2nd round, okay, that's good enough. Like, say, listen, you know what, 2 first-round picks at wide receiver, done. Like, we're gonna make commitments to certain positions and make sure it's 1,000% addressed. Like, listen, we need a pass rusher. We're going to go out and get a legitimate pass rusher. Not 3 bargain basement guys, not some diamond in the rough, like legitimate game-breaking talent. You got to start finding it. And once you get that talent, newsflash, keep it. Like, that's kind of
what a concept.
You collect it, and you keep it. We'll do a couple more because it's almost 10:30 and we all got to work tomorrow. Mims is a player. Watch yourself.
No,
I'd like to watch Mims. How about that? Can we watch Mims play? That'd be a good start.
No, listen, I love the Mims pick. I'm not down on him as a player, at least not yet. I'd like to see him on the field, but I'm more down at the fact that he was the only guy that we took in that draft. On top of losing Robbie Anderson and only replacing him with Perriman, who we all knew was not going to, at least fill those shoes, to only draft Denzel Mims was ridiculous. We knew that he was at the very least he was going to be a project. I think his ceiling is still very high. I think he could be a very solid number 2 wideout. But yeah, he's got to get on the field. And the fact that you put all your eggs in his basket, it's not any way to set up your quarterback.
Yeah, and we all want to see him play, but now it's like he's had no training camp for the most part. He's had he's had basically no activity in the NFL. Just okay, now you're healthy, go out there, kid, and make some plays. There's really no expectation this year. Like, you want to see him get at least like 8 games under his belt this year. Maybe if you could get that. But I mean, I have no expectations at all for him. That's not an indictment on him. It's just the state of his injury and all the time he's missed.
Yep.
We're not haters, man. We're not haters. We're on your side here, guys. It's just, let's see. At what point do you just genuinely stop giving a shit about a team franchise when they never seem to improve? Well, this is coming from a Giants fan who's in the same dumpster fire we are right now. So you can answer your own question. Let's see. Stop with the excuses of it takes 3 or 4 years to be a contender. The Niners was picking before us last year and made a Super Bowl. The Eagles went 6-10 and won the Super Bowl the next year. So no excuse. Here's the problem with that. We just spent 40 minutes breaking down this roster, and we identified about 3 building block players. It comes down to talent. The excuse is the Jets have no talent. That's not. It's actually a fact.
And I think the big reason the Niners were picking before us, the year before last, was because they had a bunch of injuries that year. I think Garoppolo was out for the year, as well as a bunch of other guys. So
they basically tanked.
Exactly.
They tanked
and they did it the right way. Yeah, they did it the right way, and
they spent a shitload of money on players too.
Yep.
So I think their defensive line
and they drafted well.
Yeah, I mean and they're very well coached too. Let's see. So much for players on this team trying to become household names. Hope Douglas understands you need proven household names to be good. At some point, talent prevails. I mean, that's just the way it is. And you look at all these teams that are, these top-level teams like the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, you don't have to have 22 Pro Bowlers, but you have to have high-level talent. And it starts with the draft. So you have that 3 or 4 year window when they're still young before they all want their big contract. And that's how you maximize everything.
I think you have to have at least one or the other, whether it's, the right coaching and the right scheme, as we saw, as we've seen with the Niners, having Mullins out there and Bernard and, all these guys that are hurt, their offense is still kind of clicking, moving in a rhythm. Or you could have all the talent, but you got to have at least one of the two. We don't have the coach, we don't have the talent. And so that's and that's where we're at.
Describe your guys' reaction if Bill O'Brien is hired as head coach. We will go live pretty much instantly. I'll get prime time out of work. I'll call you out of work.
That's fine.
And we will go live, and I assure you it'll be the most fascinating 20 minutes of your life. And then my screen's going to go black because my computer will be broken. I will shatter my screen. This will all be broken here. This will all be broken. Probably crack right down the middle. That'll be it.
The funny thing is, probably 2 weeks later, would be convincing ourselves that he's going to do the same thing to Sam that he did with Watson. Yep.
He had so much talk talent.
Ourselves into it.
He had so much talent in Houston, dude, and they underachieved. Even with all that talent, even playoffs, they underachieved. I know.
But you know what? There are still some people out there that say, you know what? He's still a great coach, just an awful GM. And that's what that's what worries me, that those people are going to get into ownership's ear, and we're going to get. I mean, think about it. Who thought Adam Gase was going to be the coach of the Jets when he got fired from Miami? Nobody. No one thought that was realistic. Yet he sold the Johnsons a bill of goods. He's a good talker. He could talk a good game, as far as offense goes. And he got the Johnsons to buy in, along with an assist from Peyton Manning. So who's to say that Bill O'Brien, with an assist from whoever, might not get the Jets job? He's under the Belichick tree. That's going to be appealing.
Jets will change when ownership changes. Do you guys agree? Well, ownership's not going to change because the Johnsons love owning this team and the power and the exposure that comes with it. The Jets will change when the owners get their fucking heads out of get their opinions out of the team and their control out of the team and give it to the football guys. Like, here you go, Joe Douglas. You and your staff hire the next coach, and we're going to sign the check. Like, they got to stay out of football decisions now. They have to, because they get brainwashed and they get sucked into bullshit. Peyton Manning makes a phone call, and here we are 2 years later paying the price for it.
I think the quickest way for change is if ownership changes. But we've seen under
never going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah. But we've seen under the current ownership group, we've had some runs where, we've made the playoffs a number of years, back-to-back AFC championship games. So I think it's just a matter of, finally hiring the right GM, right head coach, and then just building it the right way. I mean, and obviously having ownership kind of just stay out of it and letting the football people make football decisions.
First quarter grading, garbage. Yep. Well, Rocco, we pretty much gave our assessment too, man. We gave it. I tried to give a D, and I got talked out of that, and they're Fs for everybody. I mean, this has been
could have saved us 50 minutes. We could have just came on and said garbage.
Yeah, it's one question, now we're done. Yeah, I mean, but that's it. I mean, you look at when you're looking at this team after 4 games, you say, okay, what are our building blocks? What are the positives coming out of this first quarter? There's not a lot, man. Becton, he's hurt. Crowder came back okay. Jeff Smith is a kind of a bright spot. The quarterback's hurt. I mean, Ashton Davis is hurt. Mims is hurt.
Special teams.
I mean, it's just Ficken and the punter. I mean,
it's crazy.
This is just depressing. All right, do a couple more and we're done because now I'm depressed again.
It's might be the most depressing show we've ever done.
We're not even yelling anymore. I mean, I
have no energy to yell.
Let's see. Can we trade the number 1 overall pick for Kyle Shanahan? I mean, that'd probably be a pick well spent, man. Because I mean, that's kind of the power guy you have to have that kind of change the whole culture of this team. Like that's the only one thing that you worry about with a first-time head coach. They're walking into such a chaotic environment where there's so much just desperation for winning and so much analysis because every move is gonna be analyzed. Like, why'd you do this and why'd you do that? And you really have to have a solid plan, a solid background to just handle all this.
And that's why you'd ideally like a guy like Harbaugh who has the experience and the winning pedigree. I just don't know if that guy, 1, is willing to come here, and 2, if Joe Douglas would be willing to give up any kind of power to allow that guy to come here.
Yep. Let's see. What is the most important position the Jets need to improve on the field? If there's one spot they could fix, what's needed the most?
Wide receiver.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question, man, because you could say they have more than one. That's the problem. There's not one position. You need wide receiver. You can make an argument. You may need a center. You need a corner. You need a pass rusher. Desperately need a pass rusher, dude. A pass rusher can hide so many things in your defense. We don't have that. I mean, but I think you're probably right. Probably a number 1 receiver, like a legitimate game-breaking, a guy that everybody's got to account for. That's probably it.
Because if you have that legitimate number 1, you can live with Crowder in the slot. I mean, there's no issues there.
You can piece the guys around him. And
exactly.
You have Mims.
You hope Mims could be a number 2, which I think is, fair expectations there. So those are 3 wideouts that I think you can probably get by with if you have a legitimate number 1, not just, somebody that's getting by. No, a legitimate number 1 that requires double teams that defenses have to scheme for, a legitimate number 1 wideout.
Where's Quinnen? Wasn't he supposed to be a game breaker? I mean, I thought he was starting to show some flashes. We actually gave him credit for it, but no. Better to wait until end of year to change coaches and get a better range of picks. Well, there's two reasons that you wanted to get Gase out of here as soon as possible. The first is to get a different voice in Sam Darnold's ear and see if you can maximize him, maybe clean up some of the mistakes, let him get a better offense around him, kind of get some kind of flow in the offense, anything like that. The other thing is what we just saw Thursday night, is a guy playing every game like the Super Bowl and risking the health of players, and now these players are all out. Darnold and Becton, like, you know what I mean? Gase is an arrogant prick, man, and he's going to try to prove himself by all costs. It doesn't matter what he has to do to get a win. He will sell his soul for it now, and now it's costing us. It costs us a quarterback.
Yep. Yeah, waiting to the end of the year, to me, I think is just throwing away too many games. You still have 12 games right now where you can, kind of change things up, get a different voice in Sam's ear, adjust the playbook a little bit, adjust the play calling, move things up tempo. There's so many different things that you could do, and we haven't seen anything to suggest that Adam Gase is willing to adjust his style. So why not bring in somebody else and just see what we can get out of Sam with guys coming back over these 12 games?
I know Becton is very good, and the O-line was a big-time need, but do you think we should have drafted a receiver in the first round with the way things are looking right now? I'm going to say no, because I think Becton, if you can get a franchise left tackle, that is a value well-served pick. But I'm going to go with your answer. I know exactly what you're going to say. Trade back up and get the receiver that you wanted.
So that was my preference. If you were going to go offensive line at pick 11, I didn't think there was any reason why we couldn't have traded back up into the 20s or 30s with a guy like Jefferson there or Ayuk or whoever. Those are talented wide receivers that are making an impact right now. So I would have loved to have done that. Or the other option, for a team that is truly trying to win now, which we obviously aren't, if you were really about winning now, you trade a third-round pick for Trent Williams, you plug him in at your left tackle, and then you could take Judy, you could take CeeDee Lamb, whoever you want at pick 11.
Yep.
So I think there was a number of ways they could have did it, and somehow we ended up with what we did.
Yeah, I mean, like you were kind of stuck there because even when we did a draft show, and you're kind of like, man, like we can really go receiver here because it was such a major need. Now you see the player that Becton can be, like, all right, cool. Yeah. But then it's like, I kind of agree with you. Like, Lamb, this is this highly touted wide receiver class. There's all these guys still there. Trade up and get your guy. Like, get these proven playmakers.
Yep. That was the one thing that drove me crazy on draft night, that we sat back and I even loved how it played out in the second round where we traded back and we still got Mims. It was like, great. Now we have some extra picks. Be aggressive at some point in this draft and go get your guy. And we didn't do it.
Joe Douglas is a reputable football guy. I think he will bring in a good head coach next year. Well, he doesn't have much of a choice because he has to nail this because, again, the Adam Gase thing set us back, 3 years now? It's going to set us back at least a couple of years.
Yep.
Like, we can't miss it. Like, you almost seem to say this every hire. You can't miss on this one. You can't miss on this one. But now you've missed badly with Gase. And now your culture is so bad, now you're becoming a laughingstock. You're arguably one of the worst teams in the league. And now you got to rebuild around. And the coach you hire is going to help you get players and maximize these draft picks, which are so valuable. So if you're going to get all these draft picks and this guy can't coach them up, do you know how far back that sets us, dude? That's like a 4-year setback.
Yep. And I'm going to be very curious to see just what's going to go into the coaching hire.
And who does he have ties to? Who does Joe Douglas have ties to?
Or, I mean, is it just going to be Joe Douglas's decision? Does he have to consult ownership? Does ownership have a say in it? I mean,
what are your thoughts on Doug Peterson?
You think he's going to be gone?
I'm just asking you.
I would have he's got a Super Bowl, so why not?
Because the Eagles this year just a mess. I mean, I understand the Eagles are a playoff team every year, but I wonder if they run him out of town.
I can't see that
ties to him.
I can't see that happening, but absolutely, he won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. So if you could do that, and he beat the Patriots along the way, I mean, in the Super Bowl, that's a guy I'd love coaching my team. He's an innovative offensive mind. Yes, absolutely. If he becomes available, that would be a no-brainer. That would be the kind of guy you'd want to bring in. All
right, we'll do one more prime time. I'm gonna find you a good one. Oh my goodness, here we go. This is not gonna be your last one. Do you guys think not having a preseason because of the stupid virtual training camp that Gase never met with his players led to multiple injuries? Now, every team across the NFL is dealing with injuries. That is the problem. But the Jets have an inordinate amount, and they also had them last year when there was a preseason and everything else. And it seems to follow Gase from Miami.
Bingo. I mean, to me, that's the one thing that we talked about throughout the offseason, that, if these injuries persisted like they did last year, like they did going back to Miami. At some point, you have to stop making excuses and kind of point the finger at the guy who's running everything. And you can't even blame the trainer anymore because they brought in their new trainers. Adam Gase brought in his own guy. So, this is his problem now. I get it. There's injuries, throughout the league, but no team is decimated with injuries like the Jets are right now. We're rock bottom. So.
From Natalie, I'm a Cardinals fan. A Cardinals fan watching Jets. What are you doing here? A Cardinals fan. I think the Jets might keep it close, but just have way better coach and talent. Well, the Cardinals have been kind of the last couple weeks have not been very inspiring either. I mean, Kyler Murray hasn't been playing that great. Cliff Kingsbury, they have all the flash and the sizzle, but not getting the results. But I think that their offense will have no problem picking apart our defense, especially with Hopkins.
Hopkins and Murray are going to run all over this defense. I mean, that's my biggest worry. I think we could put up points on their defense. If Sam was in there, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable. But I also it wouldn't shock me if Gase opened things up a little bit with Flacco. So yeah, I think our offense will put up some points, but the Cardinals are going to run all over this defense.
And there's another fact to this. I was going to cover this on Friday, but Cliff Kingsbury, who interviewed for this job, has got a little fire in his ass. Like you guys could have hired me. You didn't. You passed me for this clown. Now I'm going to drop 48 on you. Yep. So he's going to have that under his belt too, I think.
Yep.
I know it's awful right now. That's an understatement. But it looked awful the first half. Oh, no.
Wait, what?
I know it's awful right now, but it looked awful the first half last year too. Schedule is tougher this year down the stretch, but do you guys think we put together later on and win a few games?
If we do, so what?
I don't really know what games there's not one game they should be favored in at this point, considering all the injuries and how they're playing.
It wouldn't shock me if we beat Miami.
Once.
Maybe
the Chargers because they're so decimated by injuries, and maybe I can't even say the Browns. I mean, there's not a lot of games. You're just like, that's a game we can win. You need to have that trap game where the teams come out flat as a pancake, and you're like, all right, we're only playing the Jets this week. You know what I mean? Like,
I thought before the year we'd have a shot in one of the Patriot games, but that's definitely not going to happen. So yeah,
maybe if Brian Hoyer's still playing because he's terrible. All right, prime time. One more last one.
Go for it.
We can't end with are we going to win? Are we going to win towards the end of the season kind of shit? Let's see. I can't name 5 potential coaches. I couldn't even do that. Let's see here.
I mean, the 3 that I keep hearing are Bieniemy, Dable, and Arthur Smith from Tennessee. Those are like the 3 that keep popping up. And then I guess if you want
Arthur Smith better worry about what the hell that Tennessee Titan team was doing with all that practice.
Yep.
Jesus Christ, man. What a disaster. I mean, that's the
whole. They have
to
forfeit their game this week.
They should. I mean, they should, dude. They're risking the entire NFL season at this point because the aftermath of what they're doing is going to hurt a lot of people, man.
Yep.
Last one. I'm really starting to lose faith in this organization. Every year I find myself hoping for losses because it's in the best interest. Ain't that the truth, man? Like you're going like we're now like when you have Flacco playing, you're like, all right, we don't want you to win. We want to go 2-14 to get the highest pick available.
And that's why I think last year, the 6-2 stretch, the reason people were rooting for losses was because we didn't want to go through this again with Adam Gase. We were hoping that, hit rock bottom, lose 12, 13, 14 games, and hopefully maybe ownership will realize he is not the answer and we don't have to go through this again. And maybe Sam could still be salvaged. And now we're having those questions. What is Sam? Is Adam Gase going to be here in 2021? Like, we don't know how long this shit's going to be going on for. So, yeah, you have to root for losses because long-term interest, we want to see a Super Bowl. Adam Gase is not winning you a Super Bowl. He may
neither is Joe Flacco.
Yeah, he may get lucky if his roster is entirely healthy. Once we have weapons and Douglas has a few years to build things where maybe he wins 9 or 10 games. He did it once in Miami, but he is not winning you a Super Bowl. He is not a Super Bowl coach. He's not going to outcoach other coaches that are in the playoffs. So what are we doing? We're wasting our time. Find an answer long-term. Stop, wasting time with him.
If Gase doesn't get fired, should I quit being a Jets fan? You never quit, man. Because one day in the next 30, 40 years, we're going to win a Super Bowl. So you can't miss that. So never quit. The only thing you should quit is quit buying merchandise this year. Stop spending money on the Jet stuff this year. That should be your thing. Prime time, we'll be back Friday night, 8:00. Definitely got some alcohol-fueled show because breaking down Cardinals Jets is miserable. So
that's going to be tough.
We want to thank everybody for joining us. We definitely appreciate it. And we'll see you guys Friday night.
Talk to you later.